Today we're talking about wood materials. It's quite a big topic, and we're going to delve into it and get into some quite intricate stuff. Think about for a minute, how many wood types do you know? Can you name any particular woods? Are they actual woods that we would use? Also, what wood would you choose to make different products? So if you're choosing to make a certain thing, how would you choose which one you would use and which one would be the most suitable? So our aims and objectives today is to recognise the categories of wood, understand how trees are turned into usable material, identify the steps of making wood materials, identify specific woods and what they're used for, and also to identify the working properties of that particular range of woods that we're going to look at today. So categories first. Woods are always materials are always categorized into different categories, so we can sort of manage them better and understand their working properties. Wood is no exception. So we have three main categories here. We've got softwoods, hardwoods, and manufactured boards. And you can see that softwoods, they're not called softwoods because they're soft, but because they come from evergreen or coniferous trees. Hardwoods come from deciduous trees, so the trees that lose their leaves. You can see the picture on the right. They grow slowly. They cost more because they grow more slowly. In the same way that softwoods are cheaper, they're lower cost because they grow faster. It doesn't mean that softwoods are worse than hardwoods. It just means they have different working properties, and you'd use them for different things. Obviously, hardwoods often tend to be more dense. So is that keyword back from lesson 1? So density is when you have more molecules within a certain volume. So therefore, they tend to be heavier. They tend to be more durable, more hard wearing because they have a greater density. And our third category is manufactured boards. So this is when you take wood and you take the material from wood, but you process it in some way to make a material that isn't timber straight from a tree, but in fact what we call a manufactured board. So they tend to be glued together and they produce large sheets. We're going to move on. Sourcing and conversion. So when you cut down a tree, you can't just use it straight away. You have to do what we call conversion. So once they chop down, you can see with the diagram on the right hand side, they're put through a big machine and they slice them up into sections. Now those sections are called planks, or and they have different names, but that allows you to then produce what we call stock forms, so standard sizes of planks of wood that you can go and buy. So you know the size, you can design for that size of material. So it's all standard, it's all the same sizes, and we can plan for that. The other sort of stock form is a sheet, and that is what we get from making manufactured boards. Now this section down here, seasoning. So when you cut down wood, it contains a lot of moisture because it's a living thing. And that moisture, if you were to use the wood straight from the tree, that moisture would make it unstable, and it would cup, it would twist, it would warp, it would split as it absorbs and loses moisture. So they put it into a big space. They stack it all evenly. In the picture on the bottom right, you can see that it's basically layered up and put into a place, and it's allowed to dry. And that takes quite a lot of time. You can put it in a heated version, which speeds up the process, but sometimes that's not always as reliable because you're doing it faster than the wood would naturally dry out. So that's what you'd need to do before you start using. All materials have disadvantages and advantages. Here are some of woods. So it's biodegradable, which means it can rot down after it's been used. So we're not filling up landfill. It's a renewable resource, which means you can regrow it, so so it won't ever run out. There are different varieties with a range of properties which are suitable for different tasks, and they have an attractive grain pattern which consumers often like. Disadvantages: woods can be endangered if they're not farmed in a sustainable way. Mahogany, for example, is almost extinct because it's been cut down and it's not been regrown properly. Cutting down trees can also add to global warming as they turn carbon dioxide into oxygen, and if you take the trees away, they don't do that as much, which means you're producing more carbon dioxide and you haven't got the trees and the forests and the plant life to kind of replace that oxygen. So we're just going to roll into the actual example woods. So we have softwoods here. We have pine at the top. We have larch, next one down, and you can see, you can read the information for yourself about what their properties are and what they often use for. They have lots of uses, not just what I've mentioned here. So just you can happily do your own research, but it just gives you an example to put it into context for you about what the wood looks like, and also what kind of products they can be used for. The next ones here, we've got spruce and we've got cedar, and you can see where they're used often. And you can obviously look up some more examples. I put a guitar here because it's quite a famous tone wood, which are used for guitars and other instruments like that. On to hardwoods now. Hardwoods have quite a lot of uses. They tend to be more expensive. Ash at the top, it can be used for sports equipment, baseball bats, handles for tools, furniture, lots of different things. Beech underneath, quite often because it's quite close grained, which means it's resistant to moisture. It's often used for children's toys, kitchen utensils. The workbenches in the workshop are made from beech as well, so it's very, very durable and very hard. Mahogany, this is the one that is endangered. Quite often you won't really find many products made from scratch now. They're usually reclaimed, made from mahogany because it's quite endangered. It's a very dark color, and it does look very attractive, but it is, as I said, not very much of it around anymore. Oak, very popular. Flooring, furniture, it's all over the place. It's very, very hard wearing, very durable, very nice to look at. It's just a really, really good wood for making lots of different things. It's quite hard to work with. It takes quite a lot of effort to cut through it and things like that. But yeah, it's a really, really good wood for all sorts of products. Manufactured boards. We've got the top one here is MDF. So this is basically it's wood dust mixed together with glue, a suitable adhesive, and it's compressed in between like a big squeezing machine. And what it does is it basically just squeezes it into sheets. The adhesive dries, and then it's just basically glued together bits of wood. So it's what we call a particle board. So it can be veneered. So it doesn't look very attractive, but the example on the right hand side has been painted, and it looks absolutely fine painted. And lots of custom built furniture, bespoke shelving that you would have built into your house or things like that would be made from MDF because it's really easy to work with. It's much cheaper than using a solid timber, and because it comes in large sheets, you can do large sections quite easily. So you can, that shelf that you want to make or that worktop you want to make, it can be done in one sheet and not just done with planks stuck together. Next one down, plywood. It's really, really used a lot. IKEA uses it a lot. You can see the IKEA drawers here. You can use it for tabletops, you can use it for all sorts. It comes in different qualities. The way it's made is it takes very thin, what we call veneers of wood, and sticks them together at 90 degrees to each other. So they kind of layer it up with glue in between, squeeze it all together to make those big sheets. And you can see the layers in the picture on the left about how, and that's the real giveaway about whether a material is plywood or not. Our last material here is chipboard. This one it's like MDF. It's basically particles of wood glued together, but it's very unattractive. It doesn't look nice at all. So what you tend to do is use a laminate, so like a thin sheet of plastic, melamine plastic, or a thin veneer of wood, and you stick it on top and stick it around the edges because it's really ugly. So that being said, you can make flooring from it. But what ends up happening is it tends to not look like chipboard. So you have to kind of know what you're thinking about and what you're talking about, because this shoe cabinet on the right hand side here, you would see this and kind of go, oh, it's made from wood, but actually it's made from chipboard. It's just been disguised really well, and that's it's quite cheap, very good for kitchen worktops and things like that. So there's no home learning. Just take the information from this worksheet, from this PowerPoint, and put it into the worksheet.